In this video I show you an exciting technique using the guinea pig's embossing folder, and you will see how to use stamps, die cuts and stencils to make it into a lovely card with matching envelope. Hello, it's CisVolk! Time to enjoy card making with me! Here it is again, the guinea pig's embossing folder from Carlacreates by Vaessencreative. It is a 3D embossing folder. You can even feel the eyes. This is so cute! I will try a technique that is fascinating to do. You will need metallic paper and I use holographic paper. The raised figures touch the back side of the paper and the hollow figures touch the glossy side of the paper. I emboss that paper in the folder in my die cut machine. It is hard to see the guinea pigs now because of all that gloss, but it is so much fun. I will show you how to make the guinea pigs more visible. For that you will need sanding discs or just sanding paper, but these ones you can attach to a normal mini ink blending tool. It has Velcro on the back to make it stick. This sanding paper can remove the upper layer of that metallic paper. I make rotating movements, but also swiping movements will do. The technique, however, works best with 2D embossing folders, only I am stubborn and need to do it with these funny guinea pigs. If you keep the sanding tool flat, you will sand all raised spots. The spots that are highest with this 3D embossing are the toes and nose and cheeks. They will touch the sanding paper and become white. I also want to sand a bit of the bellies, to also make them more visible. For that I will have to be more precise in aiming where to sand and not to sand. So you cannot see it very well in the video, but when I sand a belly I skew the tool a bit to touch the bellies. This is just because this is made with a 3D embossing folder. With a cloth I wipe away all dust. And now we can give some color to the paper. With some distress oxide ink we can color the guinea pigs. And I use a flat foam to add the color. I use the colors tea dye and ground espresso. Only the sanded parts, the parts that are white, will hold on to the ink and will keep that color. If you use dye ink it will work as well. After a layer of tea dye ink, I also add a little bit of ground espresso to a few parts of the background. When you can see both colors in the guinea pig, it gets more dimension and will be nicer with these two shades. When we are finished adding color to the guinea pigs, we can now wipe away the excess ink from the smooth parts of the paper. It is still not perfectly visible that these are guinea pigs, but wait till next step. I will now use a white Posca marker and a black glaze pen to add accents to the eyes. With the white acrylic marker I color the white parts of the eyes. That acrylic paint sticks well to the glossy paper. When the white eyes are dry, and that will not take long, then I can make the pupils. For making the pupils I use a black glaze pen, and by just placing dots on the raised spots in the eyes you immediately have that wow effect. If you take a closer look you can see the dots. You can place the black pupils on other places if you would like. That would be funny if they look all directions. I will show you that this sanding technique not always works well with all papers. However, you can also do this with craft paper or white paper that you colored with a layer of ink. You sand away the top ink layer. For me it worked nice with holographic paper, but I will show you what happened when I tried the technique with normal metallic cardstock. You see that I sand off the raised parts of the guinea pigs. However, I sanded carefully. It was inevitable to sand it in a way that the result is nice and even. That is due to the fact that this is a 3D embossing folder, and because I wanted not only the toes and nose to be colored, but also the belly, I didn't hold the sanding tool flat and that caused scratches on unwanted spots. 3D embossing folders are the best because they are very beautiful, only not always for this technique. When adding ink, you see that funny effect, and the scratches made by the sanding give the effect of hair. Only I don't like the distressed look of the scratches that are not on the guinea pigs. I went ahead anyway and finished the panel by adding a white acrylic marker and black dots of glaze pen for the eyes. On the left panel you see I ruined the paper. Not only I sanded the raised part, but this paper was too soft and I also sanded holes in the noses. Also I made scratches on the sides of the paper and between the guinea pigs. Probably there are also scratches on the holographic paper, only there it is not visible. I tried this with different papers. For me it only worked with a few. But it is fun to try, and now you at least know it can fail. Now let's make a card with it. The stamp I want to use for this card is the watering can. It is on the CAR 0006 stamp set. I press it firmly on a clear block and check if there is no air in the middle under the stamp that can cause smudges. I use a piece of Florence watercolor paper for the stamping. It is smooth white paper. Because I want to heat emboss my stamping, I first make the paper anti-static with an embossing pouch. I ink my stamp with VersaFine ink by turning the ink pad upside down and tapping it on the clear stamp. As you might already know, I like to color on watercolor cardstock and do the heat embossing because of the nice lines you get and the fact that it is easier to color within these embossed lines. After stamping and coloring the watering can, I also color a guinea pig for my card. For coloring, I use Distress Oxide tea dye, Distress Oxide ground espresso, Distress Ink lumberjack plate. I have a water brush and a jar with some water and a paper towel to clean and dry the brush in between colors. When I pick up a color, I just swipe it in the ink and do not stir to keep a pure and saturated color. I add multiple layers and blend the ink from dark to light. Later in the video I will assemble the card and share more card making tips. You can skip the coloring process by using the chapters. Or enjoy watching! You can make a quick terracotta flower pot very easily by using a piece of craft paper and partially ink blend that with some distress ink or water-based ink. The water-based ink is translucent, and if you only add color to the sides of the pot and keep the center blank, it will look like the pot is round. Start on the side of the pot. First apply ink to your work surface and blend it onto the paper using circular motions. Apply more ink on the side and less ink toward the center. The color I used is Lumberjack Plate Distress Ink. Now let's assemble what we have at the moment and see what is missing. We need a place where we can put our text. I like to use the color cards from the color cube. This color palette I chose for my card, and it is not exactly what I use, but it gives me guidance to stick to the color palette and get a nice hole. I will take a strip of paper out of this paper pad. It also has more or less the same color combinations as the color card. This bluish paper matches very well. A strip of a few centimeters is wide enough to be able to write a word on it using the lower letter K stencil by Carlacreates. Using a Signo Uniball white gel pen, I now trace the lines of the letters. And I start by tracing the last letter of my word first. The word I make is friend. Using a white gel pen on colored paper gives a sharp effect. Don't worry if you make a small mistake. We will ink blend on top of the letters and you can cover up small imperfections with that. By starting the last letter and adding each next letter in front of the previous one, you can align the text straight and have the text aligned to the right. You can see through the letters well enough to see if you have enough spacing between each one. If you don't, just hold the paper and the stencil to the light and tape it stuck so it doesn't move. Or use a magnet if you have a magnetic plate, like I do. For blending the ink, I stick the strip of paper to my stencil. I do it on the back because there is not much room to stick that stencil. I use easily removable tape to temporarily stick it. For me, a good tape for this purpose. Again, I start at the last letter. I position the stencil exactly so that I can see all the white lines fall within my stencil. Next, I mask off all letters surrounding the letter I'm going to ink blend. I use post-it tape for it. For coloring the letters, I use distress ink in the color Picket Fence, which is white. Get used to it to never place your brush on the ink pad, but always swipe some ink on the palette or glass mat. This is the best way you can keep your ink pad white. I have a brush that I specifically use for my white ink as well. First pick up the ink from your work mat or palette and then blend it onto the stencil. I blend more ink to the top right of the paper and hardly on the bottom left corner. That gives it a nice effect. To this text I will stick a die-cut text, hello, in white so it fits nicely. In this spot it fits well within the frame of the large letters. To make the blue strip look nicer, I'm going to put a white border around it. Can you see that the white also stands out better that way? The terracotta pot, which was just made with these two dies, I stuck together with a few foam blocks. I used the 1mm ones. The envelope I have for my card is 15 cm square. So my card will have to be 14.5 cm square or it will not fit inside the envelope. I will have to cut off the edges. The bluish strip I already gave a white border. I stuck two small white strips to the sides on the back. I want to stick the border somewhat above the cute eyes. That will look very funny. The watering can be stuck to the card panel with 2mm foam blocks. it may pop a little more to the foreground. In retrospect, I could also have placed a wobbler underneath that watering can. That would have been fun. The bluish border I will stick to the card panel with double-sided tape. I also use double-sided tape for the white strips. I don't use glue and don't press too hard on the paper, otherwise it will bulge, especially with that embossing underneath. Using 1 mm square foam blocks, I will stick the terracotta pot on the bluish border. Also, for the guinea pig, I use 2 mm square foam blocks. The white border of the guinea pig I slide between the two layers of the pot, so it looks like it blends in. The water drops I directly stick on the panel with glue. I will create more depth to have more layers. One of the drops I stick on the watering can. Everything that sticks out can be cut off when looking at the back. For die cutting the word hello, I prepare a piece of white paper by sticking some double-sided adhesive to the back. I cut it on the paper side. My scissors won't get sticky that way and it is easier to find the beginning of the roll next time. Vaessencreative sells this white tape. I also will cut a piece of grass out of this paper. And the word hello I will cut twice. The easy removable tape comes in handy again to keep the dies in place. I can reuse the two pieces that I used for the stencil. The two pieces of hello are now like two stickers. I can now easily stick the two together. Now I switch to using tweezers so that I can clearly see where to place the text and also make sure I do not lose the stickiness of the tape. When an extra die-cut word like this is placed within the frames of a large word made with this stencil text, it blends in perfectly. That piece of grass I want to stick partly on top of the pot. It will connect the pot with the border. Because it cannot float in the air, I place a 1 mm foam block next to the pot to give it a floor for the grass. I found my last water drop and place it next to the guinea pig. As long as all drops point into the direction of the water spout, it is still realistic. I will show you how I make my card base out of an A4 piece of paper. First I measure my card panel, which is 14.3 cm. Then I put my A4 paper in the guillotine cutter. That guillotine does not have a scoring side, but when I fold it over the edge and be aware not to touch that sharp blade, I can make a sharp fold. When I take the paper out of the trimmer, I fold the whole paper carefully. Next I cut it at 14.3 cm. Rotate it and cut it again at 14.3 cm. Now I burnish the fold with a bone folder. If you don't have one, you can also use something else, like the handle of your scissors for example. If the panel does not fit, you can always cut a small strip off. I use double-sided tape to stick the panel to the card base. Do you see that I don't remove the backing all at once? I keep half of it on the strips so there is room for movement. Once it is in place, I peel off the rest of the backings. Finally, we can make a matching envelope. Again, I take the lowercase letters by Carlacreates and the same stamp set CAR0006. But I don't use the same guinea pig again. And I will make another word on the envelope. I prepare the envelope by putting a piece of watercolor card inside the envelope. It will keep it sturdy and dry, so the back of the envelope will stay clean and the paper won't bulge so much. First, I make the envelope anti-static with an embossing pouch. Next, I stamp the guinea pig on the envelope using VersaFine ink. Then I add clear embossing powder. I put the rest of the embossing powder back into the jar and blow on the envelope to blow away all excess grains of powder. Then I stamp 3 water drops. I add them like they are coming out of the watering can. Then I again add powder and now can heat emboss it all together. The word happy I will die cut out of a piece of black paper, also with some double-sided adhesive on the back. To match the envelope with the card, I will have to use the same colors, especially that bluish color. To find a blue ink that matches best, I take my swatch card of Distress Oxide colors. It looks like the color Uncharted Mariner is most similar. The back of the card is also very useful to find matching shades of the colors you need. I will use the stencil to color the word mail. Because I want it on the left side of the envelope, I start with the first letter, the letter M. Also here I add more color to the top right of the letter, which means I mostly start with new ink on the top right and blend it out to the rest of the letter towards the left bottom side. And now you see the colors match very well with each other. Clean your stencil in between letters with a damp microfiber cloth. You can keep going straight by looking at the bottom of the letters and lay them straight in line. However, these letters are also very fancy when you blend them crooked. You see that when you blend with some more ink on one side that the letter looks more dimensional? Happy mail it is! That double-sided adhesive is strong enough when you firmly press it. For coloring the guinea pig, I use the same colors as for the guinea pig on the card. That is tea dye oxide ink, ground espresso oxide ink, salty ocean distress ink and lumberjack plate ink. The white gel pen or white acrylic marker like the Posca marker I use adds the icing on the cake. The highlights make the letters shine. The eyes of the guinea pig will look brighter when you add a tiny white dot in the pupil. And don't you agree he looks much more cute with a small stripe on the nose, dots on the cheeks and the whiskers? Let me know in the comments what you learned from this video or what you like most watching. You can find all my card making inspiration on my Facebook, Pinterest and Instagram account. All links you can find in my Linktree CisVolk and in my links in profile and also below in the video in the descriptions. I like it that you can make so many words for your cards easily with these letter stencils, and I like the embossing folder a lot, and it was nice to research this technique and make this lovely and funny card for a friend. Check out all information in the description below this video. Thank you for subscribing to my YouTube channel. I would love to see you next time. Bye bye!